I was in my office the morning, I believe it's Tuesday morning, and I was working in my office, and one of our graduate assistants came to my door, and she asked, did I hear about the plane that had crashed into the trade towers? And I said, no, I didn't. And in the way she talked, we thought that maybe it was a private plane or something, that there was some kind of an accident. So I turned my radio on and I was trying to catch a news broadcast, and then the broadcast at that time was covering the plane that had actually hit the Pentagon. And then as I began to listen more and the details began to unfold, began to sense that this was an attack. I guess like all of us, I was certainly surprised and to some degree shocked. I don't think I was overwhelmed by it, but certainly very concerned and wondering, would there be other attacks, wondering the magnitude of the attacks, how many people were actually injured or killed, and the magnitude of the damage. It's interesting because I immediately thought back, I wonder if this is how my parents and grandparents felt whenever they learned that Pearl Harbor had been attacked. I'd already been trained and had volunteered in the past as a disaster crisis counselor with the American Red Cross. I'd been out in the past doing other types of disasters like tornadoes and hurricanes. And so when I learned of this, I went to Dr. Scott Coe, the department chair, and told him that I would like to go respond to this if I was called by the Red Cross. So I put my name into the system. Basically, there was an on-call system at the time, and I called the state coordinator and said I could be available. And I was thinking I would have 2 or 3 weeks, probably lead time before I'd have to go. He said fine, and then the next day I got a response to say, actually we were flying into Philadelphia, so get to Philadelphia and into Newark, New Jersey as quickly as you can. First day we got there, we met there in Trenton, New Jersey, and we were just trying to determine where we would be deployed. So the supervisor in charge of that operation still didn't know where we would be needed. It was just too soon. So she actually asked me and another psychologist, the psychologist was from Georgia, to go to the Newark airport and to basically canvass the airport and find out what the needs were there. So he and I went the next day, I believe that was probably Sunday by the time we got to the Newark airport, and we were able to basically canvass the airport and find out what the needs were. There was still a shelter being operated. There was a local counselor with the local Red Cross that was assisting with the mental health needs there. So we canvassed and interviewed the different airlines there. So we met with each of the airlines that flew in and out of Newark there and found that most of them had EAPs, employee assistance programs. But we found that American did not have any readily available EAP assistance. So we talked more with the American Airlines representatives there and told them that we could offer them mental health assistance through the Red Cross for their flight crews, for the pilots, flight attendants, and other personnel there. And so they agreed. So the other psychologist and I spent the remaining 2 weeks there each day working with the American Airlines flight crews. A crisis basically means not that you're hysterical so much as you're sort of emotionally, psychologically stuck to where you're just frozen, you're overwhelmed, and you can't move forward and re-engage in your normal activities. And so we would help these people begin to talk about the stress, talk about the attacks. And in the process of talking and listening and helping them to mobilize coping resources and also to enlist friends and family to help, most were able to begin to move forward. Some were having difficulty thinking about getting on board an airplane, because they still didn't know if there were terrorists still out there ready to get on board these airplanes. We couldn't identify who they might be. So some of those people were frightened. So what we would do is we would basically, we got permission from American Airlines to walk these people onto an airplane that was parked there and have them go through their procedures, pre-flight procedures, in-flight procedures, and just kind of walk us through and sort of re-engage their thinking about, okay, what am I supposed to be doing? Where's my job here? And for most of those people, that was really helpful to at least be able to get back on board the plane. It's kind of like getting back in the saddle again. So they were able to get on board the plane, go through their routines, and then after we did that, most of those people were able to resume their normal flight schedules. But there were a handful that were so stressed they just couldn't. But I had a day off during those 2 weeks, and I did go to Ground Zero. I was able to go across the river. I at least wanted to see what that area looked like at Ground Zero, and it was hard to describe. I think it was certainly when you're watching pictures of it on television, you can't get the magnitude of just how large the area was. And it's kind of like, if you've ever seen pictures of the Grand Canyon, it doesn't do justice until you go and actually stand at the rim of the Grand Canyon and see the magnitude of that. I think that was the same effect I had there at Ground Zero. And I think certainly there was a sense of, the country sort of had this period of, I don't know if it was renewed patriotism, but a sense of unity that many people felt. And so I felt I was able to do, my part to help nationally. There's always going to be residual effects, I think, just because, again, that segment of the population, that 10 to 15% of the population that tends to have a lot of difficulty recovering from trauma. I think, those people are still out there. I know of a Red Cross volunteer who spent over 2 months at Ground Zero. She wasn't a mental health person. She was in another area of the American Red Cross, but she still has lingering effects. She still talks about having nightmares and painful memories and things like that. Certainly the American Red Cross, we're the cross-section of society, and so there's the 10 to 15% of Red Cross people who have difficulty adjusting as well. So I think, given the fact that we still have that segment of the population that still struggles, certainly that keeps it fresh for us. The idea that we're still not free of terrorism. Certainly fortunately we've been able to stop some isolated incidents here on the U.S. soil. But certainly we see worldwide, we read about terrorist attacks, almost every day now worldwide. And so I think that continues to remind us each day that we could be, I think we're still vulnerable, although we've got a lot of great measures in place now. I still think that idea that we keep reading about terrorist attacks worldwide still has us thinking that possibly we could be affected again.